Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Dealing with Mikadono Sisters is a Breeze, Season 1, Episode 5. Great episode, a lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up in the aftermath of the festival, and it seems like it was a big success because for you, he feels like the whole situation did bring the three sisters together, and now they're spending a lot more time together. They're helping each other get ready in the morning, ready for school and stuff like that. So he feels good, feels accomplished. The fact is, it's like that family unit, it's kind of finally coming together. And he made a promise that, obviously when they come home, he's going to make dinner for them. But that's all kind of a little off, knocked out of whack, because when he comes home he finds their dad waiting for them, and obviously there's a very solemn air where they're not even making direct eye contact with their dad, they're just standing in front of him. And we kind of come to realize how much of a douchebag his dad is. Now, to cut him a little bail, we don't know all there is to it, but we find out the reason why that the Mikadono sisters are the way they are is because of their dad. I think I might have speculated maybe this is all kind of trying to be perfect and awesome to get their father's attention, because it seems like the only time he actually comes home is for a literal status report of how they're doing in a respective field. And it seems like that's all he cares for. And then immediately, he's busy, he's got all these other things going on, but it's so interesting because he decided to bring you here, and he made it sound like, oh, I'm trying to do this. Can you be helpful to my daughters? Even though it's, because there's a lie. Because, he's, getting this breakdown about what they're up to and stuff like that. And, a proper introduction to you. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry about the circumstances that led you here with your mom. And then he's like, oh, thank you. He's like, oh, do you want to stay behind? I'm about to cook something. He's like, no, I got to go. But then he sees the mask for the festival. And then he goes into full kind of dictator mode where he's like, yo, why would you take my daughters somewhere that's going to waste their time eating together? It's like, no, they need to be perfect. They need to be getting better at what they're doing. Like, you taking them to such juvenile stuff, especially when he references like, yo, it's the festival they went to 10 years ago when they were younger, but none of that matters to him. In fact, he goes out of his way to break the mask, because it's like, why are you wasting, the fact is he brings up how you is talentless. He's like, I did a little research on you and looked at your accomplishments, and you haven't accomplished anything. So the only time they've talked directly was the end of episode 1 / into the beginning of episode 2. So I'm curious, prior to that, did he never look into you? Because he probably just accepted, like, well, you're like your mom, you're going to be accomplished. But then it's not till after he started talking to him. I would have thought you would have already done the research ahead of time and knew about him if you were going to invite him to live in the house with your daughters. But you could also make the argument maybe that's kind of his flippantness of like how he assumed you was going to be everything that his mother was accomplished wise, and it just assumed like the talent translated to him and that he would be a good influence on his children. But now it's like, he seemed that like it's only now that he brings out all those ugly things about like, yo, because that's why I'm like, I don't know if this is like some tough love thing where like he's pushing his children, but he's also pushing you. Like, I don't know, like they say, I'm trying to cut him some bail, or whether he is just that like out of the loop and just, we don't know what his circumstances are. Like I said, he could be a little more sympathetic than we're initially are meant to believe, that maybe he comes from a poor background and he wants his kids to be perfect and do everything right, because it's a situation of, by them being like that, they never have to worry about anything in life. He wants them to be better off in life, so he wants them to be great and perfect and stuff like that. But let's also not forget, their mom's not in the picture anymore. It seems like she died, so it could also be that he's thrown himself into work and he's overcompensating by like trying to make his daughters like perfect and stuff like that, because something like life can be so tragic, and just took his wife and their mother away from them out of nowhere, that maybe the same thing's applicable here, and he's just kind of like trying to make them so perfect that the randomness of life can never bog them down. They're always going to be at the toppity top, and they'll have everything, and nothing random will ever, like, I don't know if it's something irrational like that is motivating it, or whether he is just kind of like, which like a little bit of everything could be true. It could be an amalgamation of all of that, on top of him just being a dick, but he's acting like a dick or dictator because of his own pain, and he's kind of not realizing how he's treating his children. Because I thought the point for you to be there was to balance out the girls, but it seems like that's not the case. He thought he would be a positive influence. But like I said, you would think you would have all that known about you, especially the way you talked to him before, and you waited until now to bring up all this stuff about you. You were about to leave until you was like, oh, do you want to stay for dinner and stuff? And then he brought up the summer festival. But I guess for him, it's like, I'm gonna let that slide until you said all this stuff that's like, oh, you being average and mediocre, that's fine, but now I'm realizing your average and mediocrity is affecting my children. And I think that's where he decided to kind of bite back a little, I guess. I don't know. But as he's chewing into you and stuff like that, the sisters get in the way and they're like, yo, like, he helps us. He might not be that great and stuff like that, but he makes us better. Kind of the same argument that they had about like, oh, we don't need luck. We make our own. It's based on skill and stuff. We now see where they get that perspective from. They're kind of regurgitating a lot of stuff that their dads kind of drilled into them over the years. But they stick up for you, and they're like, he might not be great at everything, but he does help us. So, and they even call him by his name. They call him Yuku, they don't just call him like new kid or this or that. It's like, no, they call him you, so showing how close they have gotten. But the sad thing is, after this meeting with their dad, they kind of, when it felt like they were taking 2 steps forward, they took 3 steps back. Because for the next week, they don't eat together, and you kind of feels bummed about it. He's like, yeah, the progress we made. And it made him kind of put things in perspective, where he realizes, like, they've got all this stuff going on, and he's like, yeah, I've been so focused on trying to make them some family based around like some mediocre average like family TV show. But then he stops himself upon saying that, because he thinks about how important that show was to his mom. So it's like, no, someone as amazing as my mom wants that and loved that show. So there's not mediocre, there's something special and beautiful about it, and I know there can be something beautiful and special about this family too. So, and the sad thing is, each of the siblings have, because they're not eating with with you, they are just kind of going back to for one, they're pushing themselves performance-wise, but also they're not eating, they're going back to the regular, like whether it's Nico's case, the like regular packaged food that she was eating before, or the nutrient drinks that Kazuki was drinking, or the regular snacks that Miwa was having. And they're all kind of lamenting about that. And they're trying to say, like, no, stop focusing on him, don't think about him. And then, like, the next day, they come home, they're about to leave for school, and Nico turns, and they all feel it. Him not saying, have a good day, kind of just, it stung a little. And so when they're just having their respective lunches, he snuck lunches in their bags. And it's these wonderful, delicate meals that he'd been making previously, and they're all so happy about it. They're like, oh, and we find out like he basically stayed up till like 4 a.m. to making those. So, which obviously was a very nice thing. But then on top of all that, they've got things they have to worry about, because let's go. Kazuki has a performance coming up, but it's a more feminine performance, because her father said like she usually plays the prince role and she does it so well, but her father's like, to expand your repertoire, especially like in a troupe, you need to be able to play multiple different faceted roles. So you can't just always play the prince role. You need to be perfect at like the feminine roles as well, which is something Kazuki's not used to. Even like her ending, like at the end of these episodes, reflects that, where she's always playing the role. And even in that ending, Yu's with her, and you see her transition to the dress and the long hair, because she's playing the role of the princess, which coincides with this performance, because she's trying on the wig, but she like puts it like back on the little mannequin head, because she doesn't want the others catching her, because it's not something she's used to. She's like, I was kind of born this way, like I'm born to play the prince role, I've always been that person. And she kind of doubts her feminine skills. You have Nico, who's pushing herself because her next competition, her senpai, which I'm assuming he's like the previous head of that karate club or whatever, I'm sure, or martial arts club, I think it's a karate club, but whatever the case may be, I'm sure he's the previous head of that, and she wants to impress him. I think he's probably the dude in the blue uniform we see. I wonder, did he transfer to a different school or something like that? Because he looked like that might have been a high school uniform. It didn't look like it was college, but I think he might be like, maybe he transferred to a different school, or because he was like overseas dealing with like a competition or something. They just got back. So there's that. Then Miwa apparently has like a decision to make. It's like, yeah, she got some tough matches coming up. But also like there's something else. Like I guess that's her sensei asking her like, you need to make a decision about like, I guess whether to continue like these pro matches or something else that we haven't gotten to. And I'm wondering if some of that is what kind of made her start thinking about that photo and the festival like 2 episodes ago. I'm wondering if that was all sparked because of whatever her side of the story is dealing with. But by the time they come home, they're all stressed about their respective things. But as Kazuki says, they're able to kind of forget it for a little bit because of Yu's up there trying to make some udon noodles for them. Because he's like, I'm going to make some stuff that's going to be good for you nutrient-wise, but also lower in carbs and stuff like that. And he slips and has a disaster, but they're laughing and it makes them kind of forget. And so while they're tasting the food, it looks nice and great, but then they realize, it just tastes very average. And so I think at first I was like, is that supposed to be indicative of Yu's food has always been average, but it tastes so good because so much heart is into it? Because they've never had that reaction towards his food before. So I don't know if it's like a correlation of now running into their dad kind of soured the food and now they realize like, oh, it's nothing special, it's just average. That's one way to interpret it, but my initial thought was, oh, it's because this is his first time making it. Because as Kazuki learns, like, even Nico was asking, like, oh, how is he so good at cooking? He's not a great cook. It's just he has the perseverance and dedication to keep going and learn and over again. So the other meals he's made them previously that he's prepared for them, he's put a lot of time and effort. As we know, like he was up until 4 a.m, probably just trying to get it just right, everything. For all of them. So because of that, like he's worked out how to do those meals easily. This is something he's doing for the first time. So it's not going to be like probably to the same level as his other cooking because it's his first time around. But give him enough time, it will taste even better and magnificent. But for them, it doesn't matter even if it is tasting average, because who knew average could taste so good? Because average was always a bad thing in their household because of their dad. And I think it's because for them, it's like I was saying, they could feel the like love and heart and attention that Yu puts in there, and they can feel like what he's trying to get across, that he's trying to look after them and take care of them, which is really neat. So I believe it was before this. I think it was like after he had packed those lunch forms like that night or whatever, I think was the whole situation of we will allow you to support us type of thing and be there for us. He's like, yeah, like we're we'll come together like a family. They're like, no, not a family. You're not part of this family. You're our supporter. That's it. Don't get the title position you have in this household twisted. But because of the whole situation, Kazuki looking at Yu wants to help out. And obviously she was supposed to handle the dishes previously, but she would constantly break them. And so she's like, right, I want to help out. She's like, but it's to help with my feminine, like tap into my more feminine side. But like Yu's like, you don't have to be feminine to like wash your own dishes. So she's like, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for me. And she's actually trying. In fact, we find out that he's replaced, like he's not using any of the good dishware. He's using like plasticware because he's like, this way you don't have to worry about ever dropping anything and breaking it. So it isn't just for his sake because he is clumsy, but it's also for Kazuki, who is much of a klutz when it comes to that household stuff as well. But she had noticed the cuts on Yu's hands. He was like, oh yeah, I was trying like, this and that. And I even burned my hand because I forgot it was hot. This pot or whatever was hot. So she's like, right, the fact is he's so dedicated and how far he's willing to go for their sake. So I'm curious what the nosebleed was about. That could have easily been like, and this might be something we see going forward. Because him being sick hasn't come up yet. Because Kazuki was sick in episode 2, but I don't think him being sick has come up. It's probably going to end up being a thing of he's eventually going to, I think it's a pretty far-going conclusion that a future storyline is going to definitely be about them taking care of him because he's going to run himself ragged, pushing himself so hard and above and beyond for them that because his nose is bleeding in this episode and it just kind of came out of nowhere, I think that's probably going to be an indicator going forward. Like, yeah, he's running himself ragged. And this might coincide because I don't remember Do correct me in the comments down below. Now, if it's something that comes up later in the manga and hasn't been covered in an anime, don't tell me. But I don't think we know how his mom got. Like, we just knew his mom was sick, right? I don't think we knew exactly what she did. Like, maybe we found out in episode 1 and I just don't remember. If it was in the anime and it's been covered already, sure. But I was wondering, like, because it could also be something hereditary. Like, if your family members have a certain, like, medical condition, you're more likely to have it. It's kind of in your DNA. Or so, but I also wonder, could it just be like his mom like was exhausted and that led to her getting sick and she just never could quite bounce back? Like, what if that ends up being the case with you? Maybe, I don't know. That feels like it just, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading way too much into it, but it feels like the nosebleed coming out of nowhere like that feels like that's going to turn into something more later. That's like a precursor, like I said, to him just running himself ragged. Either way, Kazuki's like trying to help him. She slips, falls on top of him, and they accidentally kiss. And Kazuki's like, it was nothing. And she goes about her business. And Yu goes, wow, look at Kazuki. She's such a professional. She's so amazing. Like, she's not being bothered by that. Because he's thinking like, right, she's probably had plenty of experiences like that. Like, she's probably kissed people before during her performances. She probably hasn't. She's probably, just with the, angles and stuff like that, she's pretended to kiss people. But she's probably never kissed anyone ever, boy or girl. This is definitely most definitely the first boy she's ever kissed. She's probably never kissed a girl either, so that probably was her first kiss in general. Definitely was used, but his only takeaway is, man, it kind of sucks. My first kiss tasted like blood. But he's trying to pretend like everything's okay. In fact, he goes to see Kazuki later. I think the next day, he's like, hey, I just wanted to say, like, we can just pretend like it didn't happen. It bothered her to the point that every time something kiss-related would come up, she'd blush. It's like, oh, let's check the TV for the weather forecast. Oh, it's a TV show about kissing. Nope. Oh, this snack that you made for Miwa. She's like, oh, it's like soft, moist lips. And she gets flustered by that. But then she apparently gets extra pissed when she's like, wait, it meant nothing to him? Because for her, it was her first kiss, and for him to act like it meant nothing, it's like, oh, it should mean something to you. So she's a little salty about that. And it actually starts interfering with her work, because she's like, right, I'll just put it out of my mind. It does mean nothing. I got to focus on my performances. And then she does, and she has this moment with the person she's acting across from and tries to kiss her, but then like goes in for the kiss and then panics because she immediately remembers what happened between her and you. And so her teacher says, like, right, whatever's going on in your personal life can affect your performance, for better or for worse. And she doesn't say that, but that's the rub of it all. Sometimes you can pull off something performance-wise just because you have what you're going through in your personal life as inspiration. So when she comes home, she asks you to do this and do that for her, but she's also like, yo, are you free on Sunday? He's like, yeah, I'm free Sunday every day, whatever you need from me. She's like, cool, we're going on a date. It's like, right, she's going to try and play the feminine role. It'd be interesting if she tried to force you to play that role because of how soft-spoken and how, like, soft he is in general, personality-wise, that she might do that. I mean, because that's kind of probably where that's probably going to be part of, like, the bit, is that where it's like she does play the more princely role, he plays a more princess role, or it might be a thing of that's the most of the dynamic until something happens and he kind of steps into prince role and she kind of flows into the princess role. Like I said, like her outro for the show. So going to be some really interesting developments on that front. It's going to be interesting too when how are Nico and Miwa going to feel about that. It's going to be funny if they find out about it. I could see a story beat being that they are following them around. They've also probably got to be a little weary of people at school potentially seeing them, or people from her troupe, theater troupe seeing her. So yeah, I'm also curious when the next time we're going to see their dad and under what circumstances. I actually thought like part of what part of what you was going to do was going to be to confront their father, but I'm like, that will probably happen much, much later in the story. And maybe upon that time, we'll kind of get a little more insight into him. And like, well, once again, not the best second impression, first real impression of him. But like I said, maybe there's some more complexity there. Maybe he is just a dick, but there's still complexity there. Or maybe that whole situation isn't what we think it is. Like I said, I'm cutting him a lot of bail because I don't think it's just going to be like, oh, he's just a straight up shitty dude. Like I said, I think there's going to be some complexity there, but we'll have to wait and see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.